So one question I have is, why haven't anybody or any organization on the island ever addressed affordable housing? It's never been looked at in a serious way.
Until the affordable housing.
You think it is now? I'm not sure it even is now. Is council looking at it in a constant way?
I don't know.
I'd actually like to get rid of the word affordable. I just like rental. I just want rental. I want a place I can live and know 5 years from now I'm not going to have to move 5 times because the house I live in gets sold 5 times.
Yeah.
And I would like to see more rental, official rental property on the island. I think that a lot of it is these surplus lands lend themselves perfectly to it because they're in backwoods places that are backing onto the forest where kids can go out and play. I'd like to see 4plexes there. I grew up in a 4plex, had a great time. 3 families went off to work. One of the dads went off to work. The mom took care of the rest of the kids in the backyard, make sure they didn't kill each other, and off you go. But from my consideration, there's a lot of people out there living under leaky roofs, flooding basements, mold, insulation exposed, you name it. And the moment they try to complain to their landlord, they're going to get blacklisted on the island. And after that, where do they go? Just give me something I can live in for 5 years.
So stability.
Stability, that's the big thing. Let the people who rent on this island share the hope of Bowen.
And quality.
Yeah.
So who makes that happen? Private enterprise or Muni?
I think Muni has to make the lands available, and I think we have to trust our island neighbors and friends who are developers, that they're not in this simply for a profit motive, but also to create some sort of a legacy and to improve the environment in which they have to live as well. Because, in my opinion, the main reason we live here is because this is the safest place on the planet.
Well, there's very good merit in what you're saying, because at the same time that we could ask that of developers, and I don't know if you'll agree or not, to me it's everyone's in high competition on the West Coast for a real estate market that has probably reached its peak. And for a developer to add quantities and qualities of what makes a livable community, a sustainable, livable community, into their plans is an attraction for their development and can help with sales.
Those properties are going to be filled anyway. I mean, we had that meeting up at Artisan Square, 3 months ago, and all the businesses were asked, how many people do you need on this island? How many rooms in this island do you need to maintain your business and keep your employees? And Rondi Dyke wasn't even there with the Union Steamship Cottages, and the number was over 100. Those places are going to get filled anyway. And I disagree with you on the idea of the diversity. I think that confuses the issue somewhat. I like the idea that came in Salt Spring, where they have a 27-person building that was just donated, or for the property, $1.2 million, half an acre of land, was just donated by one of the local philanthropists. A 27-person condominium built there. What's the problem with that? I'm sorry, this high-density thing on Bowen, I don't get it if you're in the Cove. The Cove is a fantastic place to have high density. People want to work here, people want to live here, people want to play here.
There have been quite a few articles coming out in North Shore News and other places that there is a downside to what you're saying as well when you talk about density, high density.
Particularly in a small community?
Yes.
What would the downsides be?
Well, some of the articles that I have been reading have to do with the introduction of problems to do with traffic congestion. I can see that here for sure.
Yeah.
And crime also.
Now, why would crime be an issue?
Well, sometimes there's if people are sort of transient as they are in Horseshoe Bay, some of the places there isn't that same commitment. So,
but the people that would move into these places are working at the pub, or working at docks,
hopefully
or working
that
in the
would be,
businesses here,
and don't necessarily
they're not
have
people
to drive.
coming from off island.
But I'm not arguing against the need for.
If they were criminals, they'd already be criminals.
Yeah, but I'm talking about density. That's what I was
I don't see how the crime rate would be affected at all.
Well,
They're not
there's
criminals
quite a few-
now. Why would they become criminals? Because we
Well,
give them a
they're
place to
not-
live.
Well, you
Criminals,
have
no.
no regulation over
It's
who
just,
moves here and who doesn't, but we do know from a lot of past studies, et cetera, just plain statistics,
People
that the
are
higher
moving
the
in.
density, the more incident of crime.
You don't see those places being filled up by people that already live here?
Or who are
You're saying
already
people are
in-
going to come running to Bowen because
Who?
suddenly we have a place to live?
No, and I don't want you to exaggerate,
Okay.
please do, okay?
Yeah.
True.
All right?
Well, it's not exaggeration. You're saying that people that are going to come from off island to live in these high-density areas.
Some are. It won't all be Bowen Islanders.
Before we get too far ahead of that, the understanding about what is high density and what is not, I mean, this ranges from 100 units per acre to 4 units per acre. So what do we really call high density? Because I am not aware that anybody ever had suggested high density on Bowen Island. I mean, probably the most dense area could become the cove here in 30 acres. On 30 acres, about 160 units. So that's, how much is that per acre?
55?
No, well, 160 if we have 5-6 units per acre. I mean, this is if you have 30 acres and you create 150 units, that would be 5 units per acre. I mean, in the
5
UK,
living spaces? 5 actual living
well, whatever
spaces?
units.
5 units, whatever.
Where,
What's a unit? It houses
a
one
unit
person.
is where a family can live.
Okay.
An apartment or a townhouse or whatever. So I know in the UK, a unit on a quarter of an acre or a fifth of an acre is almost considered an estate.
Uh-huh.
So on Bowen Island, if we say, well, we have 5 units to an acre, we call that high density. So that's why I don't know if we just talking about high density have an idea of what we are talking about.
No, I think that's a very good point, Wolfgang, and it's all about bringing it home. What this is semi-rural living here. What are people's tolerances? Because how much are we going to take away, again, from being Bowen Island, a livable community? And we have no density benchmarked, and that's probably a very good thing to look at.
Yeah, but then will Bowen Island be more livable without affording diversity? I would say if we just allow people to live here who can afford to spend $1 million, will Bowen Island then really be livable?
Well,
For them, I guess.
again, that's a good point. Another thing to look at too, and how diverse are we? Council has been remiss to do social demographics, and yet that's probably an area that should be looked at right off the bat, along with a natural resource inventory.
But how do you do demographics on 2/3 of the population who are invisible? Basically, the commuters.
Certainly invisible tonight.
I mean, they disappear every morning, come back at night. They're the largest voting bloc on the island. There's no way to communicate with them. The paper is somewhat efficient. The website is locals, or if you will, townspeople. So there's no way to really communicate with that group. That again, another study. What irritates me most about this whole housing situation is that there's people living in the conditions that I described every day, and every day we sit here with our new studies and our new ideas and our new approaches and try to re-educate the developers and re-educate the carpenters on how to live a European style or whatever the new system is another day that a person has to live under those poor conditions.
I never suggested
and-
another
and-
study, though, Al.
But
Statistics are different.
Another
okay?
every day we delay is another day that a shovel is not stuck in the ground.
Well, and I think the delay part is very important because there has been a huge delay. I'm not sure when the affordable housing group started up. A couple of years ago?
Well, it was an issue in the 2005 election.